Okay, so you're here because you want to know what's really going on, right? You don't have time to scroll through all the noise and the clickbait, right?
Exactly.
So we're going to try and break it all down for you. You want to know what's up with NBA YoungBoy and when he's getting out.
Yeah. So initially, I mean, everyone thought it was going to be late July, right?
Yeah, end of July's.
Based on what we knew about the charge, possession of a firearm, the whole prescription medication fraud thing.
Yeah.
23 months, a hefty fine, probation, like pretty standard stuff for those kinds of charges, right?
Yeah.
But there's been a big change. Pretty big change. So July, forget about it. That date's moved up, like way up.
Like a lot.
3 months earlier. So we're talking April 26th of this year.
Oh, wow. So he could be out in like weeks, not months.
Yeah, weeks, not months. That's right.
So like, is there something going on with the original agreement?
Makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like something happened. Like there was some change to the initial judgment.
Yeah.
So this earlier release date, it's probably from a recalculation of his sentence. Maybe they're giving him credit for the time he's already served, potentially going all the way back to May of last year.
Yeah.
That kind of adjustment would explain this new April date.
So, okay, so like the original sentence had all these specifics laid out, right?
Yeah.
Like the time, the fine, the probate, even what happens to the guns.
Uh-huh.
So this new date, it's like they made a formal change or they reevaluate the whole thing. So what could make them do that?
Well, there's a few things that can trigger this kind of adjustment.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good behavior, like in the facility.
Yeah, yeah.
Or maybe he's been doing some rehab programs.
Yep.
But it could also be that they reevaluated the sentencing guidelines, and that change applies to his case, even though it's already happened.
Retroactively.
Yeah.
Okay.
The key phrase we're seeing is this sentencing reduction to include time served, which, points to an official recalculation.
Okay, so, but then right when this early release news comes out, there's this whole other thing.
Oh, yeah.
These reports about an incident that happened at FCI Talladega.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was all over the place, right? It got out through Terrence Gangsta Williams, Birdman's brother.
Yeah.
And the report is that NBA YoungBoy ended up in solitary confinement.
Right. Yeah, because someone yelled OTF.
Right.
Right, which obviously everyone knows is Lil Durk's crew, right? Only the family.
Exactly.
And so NBA YoungBoy, he didn't like that too much.
Yeah, he reacted physically. That's the story anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to think about it, that acronym in that situation. It's loaded, right?
Super loaded. I mean, there's already all this bad blood between NBA YoungBoy and Lil Durk and their crews, and it all goes back to King Von,
Right.
Lil Durk's close friend who was killed back in 2021.
Yeah.
And it was during this fight with Quando Rondo, who's an NBA YoungBoy guy.
Yeah.
And that's when the rift between them really blew up.
Yeah. So even inside, a federal prison, these tensions are still there? It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes you think about what the atmosphere must be like in there.
Yeah.
Was this yelling, OTF, was that intentional? Was it meant to provoke something? Or was it just, a coincidence, whatever it was? It just shows how these outside conflicts can follow these guys anywhere.
Yeah. But the important thing is that this thing in prison, it didn't affect his release date, right?
That's the main thing.
He's still coming out in late April.
As far as we know, yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever happened, it didn't lead to any more time on his sentence.
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. All this stuff is happening. They're beefing. There's diss tracks. It's all over the place. But then NBA YoungBoy in 2023, he comes out and says something kind of shocking.
Yeah, he really flipped the script. And this was after Gilly the Kid said something. He said he wanted to see them squash the beef.
Right.
And NBA YoungBoy, he kind of agreed.
Yeah, he basically said a lot of it was just for show. For entertainment.
Entertainment, keep the fans engaged.
Yeah, there's even this video he posted. He captioned it, "It ain't what you think, OG, all this shit entertainment."
Yeah.
So if we zoom out for a second and look at the music industry, right?
Okay.
This kind of thing happens a lot. These public feuds, they're often just for the cameras.
Yeah, it's part of the whole image.
And, Dilly the Kid, he even suggested that they could work together, to set a good example.
Yeah, collaborate on some music.
Yeah. And that seemed to really get to NBA YoungBoy, and that's what led to that, entertainment.
Yeah. It's like he was saying, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But he didn't stop there. He also reveals something even more surprising.
Oh, yeah.
About him and Lil Durk.
Uh-huh.
He said that despite this whole public beef thing, they actually talk all the time.
Yeah.
About music. Every 2 or 3 nights.
Every 2 or 3 nights, talking music.
And that's wild.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, you have this massive public fight, but in private, they're having these chill conversations about music.
Doesn't really add up, does it?
Yeah, it kind of changes how you see the whole thing.
It shows you how much of what we see as fans is just like an act.
Yeah,
Especially now with social media, everyone can control how they look.
it's all curated.
Totally. And we just get like a glimpse. We don't get the full picture.
But then Lil Durk, he didn't really agree with this whole "we're cool" thing. He had his own side of the story.
Yeah.
He went on Instagram and said that NBA YoungBoy had given him a fake address when he wanted to visit.
A fake address.
Yeah.
Not very friendly.
No, there's still this distrust there.
Yeah, maybe things aren't as chill as NBA YoungBoy made it seem.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. It's really going on between them.
Totally. What is the actual relationship? Is
Yeah.
it all fake? Are they really enemies? Or is it something in between?
Yeah.
Tough to say, right?
Yeah, but NBA YoungBoy, he did address the whole address thing.
Oh, right.
He said it was because of his probation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, anyone who wants to visit him has to be approved by his probation officer.
Right.
And he even talked directly to Lil Durk in this video. He's like, bruh, my PO got to approve you. It don't work like that. You gonna send my ass to jail.
Yeah. So he was saying it wasn't personal, just
Yeah.
a legal thing.
Yeah. So for Lil Durk, it felt like a diss. But for NBA YoungBoy, it was just him trying to stay out of trouble.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Okay, so if you're listening to this and trying to make sense of it all, here's the deal.
Yeah.
NBA YoungBoy's getting out early. That's for sure.
Uh-huh.
But then you've got this whole mess of a public feud and prison stuff and these weird, private conversations.
Yeah. It's a lot to unpack.
It shows you that these public figures, their lives are complicated.
Super complicated. What you see online in the news, it's just a tiny part of the story.
A carefully constructed story.
Exactly. The line between what's real and what's for show are super blurry.
Yeah. Makes you think about how much of what we see in the entertainment world is actually genuine.
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a good reminder to not just take things at face value.
Always dig a little deeper.
Yeah. And even with that incident in prison, who knows what really went down?
Right. Was it real beef or was it just more entertainment?
Even in prison.
Wild. Right.
So yeah, this whole deep dive into NBA YoungBoy, it's been more than just about his release date. We've seen how messy these public feuds can be and how different the private story can be.
Totally. There's always more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder how much of what we see from celebrities is actually real.
Right. It's a good question to keep in mind.
Yeah. And that's something to think about going forward. How do you figure out what's genuine and what's not?
Yeah. It's not easy. And how does that change how you feel about these artists and their music?
Yeah. It's a lot to think about. Thanks for listening.
Always a pleasure.
See you next time.
Yeah. See ya.